Hey everyone, my name is Chris Lambert with Film Colossus, and I saw Eddington a little bit ago, and I am very torn about how I feel. So I think if I'm going to rank it, just starting off in terms of like Astor's filmography, I'm still going Beau is Afraid at number one, and then Hereditary, and then I think just for the sheer cojones of trying to make a movie like Eddington, I think that goes number three. I've never been a big Midsummer person. Cult movies tend to just be a little too predictable to me, and you just know where they're going. And Midsummer did not really deviate from the step-by-step nature of the cult movie. Eddington was pretty wild. Like Beau is Afraid, you have no idea where it's going. Eddington, you're also struggling to see where it's going to go. My issue with Eddington is that I feel like parts of it are really deep and the characters are really well explored, and then other parts aren't. For example, Emma Stone and Austin Butler, their characters, while I get they're representative of a zeitgeist at the time and a kind of person, they just didn't really feel like it worked for me. Just especially in terms of how little time they're really on screen. Uh, and that was something that I wasn't really a fan of, and it just made me feel like the script needed one more draft through, and then the film needed one more edit through, and then it's probably landing in a good place. As is just like a tad indulgent in a way that keeps me from really loving it, and I tend to really love things that are super indulgent. Like Beau's Afraid was one of my favorite movies the year that it came out, so it's not like I don't like weird Astor. It just this didn't quite land, and it made me think at one point in the middle of the movie, like three-fourths of the way through, when I guess this is spoilers. We're going spoiler route. Yeah, we're just gonna deal with spoilers here. When Joaquin Phoenix starts shooting at everybody, he starts slaying his enemies. I'm like, oh, this movie is a cool modern take on Falling Down. Falling Down's a movie that doesn't quite get the love that I think it should at this point in time. It's a movie that disguises itself as a typical summer blockbuster from the perspective of a disgruntled Michael Douglas who's had enough of it and is going to take it to society. And there are people who are convinced that Michael Douglas really is a good guy in that movie, despite like three-fourths of the way through, the twist is that you realize that he's actually a bad guy, and all of his convictions, all of the ways in which he was espousing the ailments of society and being this vehicle for people who are disgruntled. And you're just like, yeah, I hate traffic. Yeah, I hate how they talk at fast food places. Yeah, clean up the streets, do good. You realize, no, he's actually pretty messed up. And you have that famous line, am I the bad guy? And I feel like Eddington had a little bit of that energy to it with Joaquin Phoenix's character, where there's the idea that he thinks he's the good guy. He's espousing some things in the movie. I've used that word twice now. I usually don't like to repeat, but he's saying some things in the movie that I think people will relate to. Like, as much as we're supposed to look at him as a little bit of a buffoon, there's a sympathy to him. There's a good naturedness to him, and he just starts to get wrapped up in his own like bullshit. So there's some sympathy that Astor creates for the character rather than just keeping Joaquin Phoenix's character as this one-dimensional bad guy, right? There's some dimensionality to him to the point where you can sympathize with him in ways, you can feel bad for him in ways. There's going to be people that root for him in ways, which is scary. And that's the same thing with Falling Down. There's still, you'll find Reddit threads where people are like, Falling Down is this great movie about this guy that understands, and you'll see just comments of people being like, he was great, he was great. Like, you idiots, you morons. You miss the point of the movie, and you might be a problem to society. Anyway, Eddington kind of has that energy going on, except it's not quite as one-sided. That's the thing. It punches both political spectrums in the mouth, showing the absurdity of one side and the absurdity of the other when each goes too far. It reminded me a little bit of Pynchon, too. I don't know how many people watching this have read a Thomas Pynchon novel. Why am I blanking on every Thomas Pynchon novel name? The famous one, oh no, this is going to bother me. Gravity's Rainbow. I remembered Gravity's Rainbow, which is a phenomenally weird and awesome book. It's an epic and a dense read. It's essentially like you're an advanced reader if you've read Ulysses, Infinite Jest, and Gravity's Rainbow. Well, Infinite Jest has become kind of like a bro hipster book in some ways. It's still an accomplishment. I think Gravity's Rainbow is the next level of that. There are a lot of people that can push through one, but not both. But Pynchon also was the source of Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice. That was one of his latest books, before Bleeding Edge was one of the newer ones. And then the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie is based off of Pynchon's Vineland. So Pynchon, getting a little play in cinema. So this reminded me a lot of that, especially like the Antifa or the far left extremist attack that happens in the movie, which was such a strange plot point to me. And maybe that's some of the point that Astor's making with the movie, because there were stories of that, right? You had people on social media, the provocateurs on the right, who were saying that, the left is perpetrating these things and they're just as bad, which was really a cover up for the stuff that a lot of extremists on the right were doing. It's like you have these right-wing extremist groups that are well documented, well known, and it's like they started trying to conjure up a left-wing extremist group boogeyman. But then Astor makes it reality in this movie. And I don't know if that's just for the drama of it, or if he's saying, if this really happened, if you had these groups, just like all of these bad actors who are just trying to stir up these talking points to get their base all riled up, if you really had these things happening, this is what it would look like, and it would be insane. Like, that whole final chase sequence and shootout sequence is just such an insane thing. And if that really happened, it would be such national news to a wild degree. I imagine there's going to be someone in the comment section who's just like, Chris, it did happen. It did happen. And here's the link to some random ass website that no, it didn't happen. Anyway, so there's part of me that likes how crazy the movie got, but there's also part of me that feels like it's such a strange thing, because so many of the characters in the movie, it's like you have the whole of COVID, right? And we talk about this a lot. I talk about this a lot on the website, this idea of macro and micro plots, or global and local plots, personal or public. It's just this idea of scale, right? You have the larger thing that encompasses like culture, society, and then the smaller thing that might just be a character or a small group of characters. And there are movies that have these two things mirror each other. So what's going on between a couple characters, as my computer screen gives out on me, what's going on between a couple characters might actually mirror what's going on in society at large, and you'll see that interplay. Godfather is one of the classic examples of this. Michael's rise in The Godfather is representative of this change in culture. So Vito's loss of power represents this dying out of this generation of America that was so traditional and had these standards. Even if the standards could be crazy, they at least had standards. And then Michael comes in and it's just like, no, whole new energy, whole new vibe. We're changing things up around here. And that was America, in 1955 to, or was it 1954 to 1960, whenever Godfather takes place across as Michael returning as a soldier in this like youth movement that followed the end of World War II, that really changed America and started the kickoff to the country as we know it today. There's a big demarcation there. So The Godfather takes that global aspect of the changing country and boils it down to what's going on in the Vito Corleone family. And that happens here in Eddington. Eddington becomes this representation of the larger things going on in the world. So you have the left-wing movements, the right-wing movements. You have the back and forth between Pedro Pascal and Joaquin Phoenix. You think I would know the character names. Ted, Jim, John, I don't know, Joaquin Phoenix, and the tension between them, their ideologies. But I think mostly what we see when we get to the end of the movie and looking at the idea of like, what's the point of this movie? There's so much that's going on, but at the end of the day, it's where it starts, right? This is something that we talk about all the time on Film Colossus. It's most of the movie, like to understand 90% of movies that exist, you look at the first scene and then you look at the end scene and you see what happens in the middle. Normally, what the two bookend scenes clarify everything that's going on. So Eddington starts with the sign talking about the opening of this plant, and then it ends with the opening of the plant. So everything that's going on in between takes place in the context of what changes to have this plant go from a concept to a thing that exists. And it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for these people who are pushing things along in the story. And I think that there's a deeper commentary on the fact that so much of what's going on in society is happening because of these larger corporate interests that we never really see. And you see how individuals change their ideologies the same way that these corporations change their ideologies and whatever benefits them. What I mean by that, there are two characters that embody that the most. First is Billy, the friend of Ted's son, who takes on an entirely new personality because the girl that he likes is such an extreme left-wing person. He starts doing that, and we see him give the ridiculous speeches that he gives where he's on stage and he's like, I don't deserve this platform, screaming at the top of his lungs. And then because he's at the right time, the right place to be considered a hero to the far right and the right conservative movement, he adopts that. And we see at the end that he's taken on that entire persona and that he's made an entire career and life being that person when he was an entirely different person, when that would get him what he wanted. And again, that's emblematic of a large degree of people that exist in the world, especially in the influencer space and political commentary space. Candace Owens is somebody who had initially started off on the left and then got booted from the left and then started doing more right-wing talking points. It was an amazing pivot into a huge career for her. But she's somebody like that kid who had a change in ideology because it suited them gaining an audience. And you see that with Ted's backer, right? The governor wanted the plants. It didn't necessarily matter what the governor's politics were. She knew through the guy that was backing Ted that they could get Ted to bring the plant through. But then once Ted was gone, they pivoted. And they use Joaquin Phoenix's mother-in-law as a new like Marjorie Taylor Greene type figure who will say all these ridiculous things, but the people like her and pay attention to her, like her cohort. She has an audience the same way that Joaquin Phoenix started to grow an audience based on the idea that Joaquin Phoenix is the mayor, right? But it's just this superficial thing that they could use to shove through this plant. And that's really what we see. There was no real political ideology to the governor, to the people in power. They just wanted this plant to go in. Just like the Brandon kid had no ideology aside from like, I want this girl, and then I want attention, I want a career, I want a platform. And I think that's some of what we're seeing in the movie is these people sacrifice so much to try to have a platform that they'll lose things because they want this attention or they want a thing. I mean, we see it with Joaquin Phoenix's character in a way where he begs Emma Stone to stay. He's just like, I'll do Emma Stone. Yeah, Emma Stone to say anything. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. We'll talk about it. If you don't want me to run for mayor, I won't run for mayor. And then it cuts to him putting in signs and pulling out signs, and his entire truck or SUV is decorated in a way that it hadn't been before. Like he's escalating, even as he's telling his wife he'll do anything to keep her, and if she doesn't want him to run, he won't run. He escalates. So there's some theme about that that's like boiled in, is these ideological stances that all of these people have. Are they really real? Are they ridiculous? Are they just a byproduct of this madness? And maybe a little of that conspiracy of who's actually pulling the strings. And you see it very much with the mother-in-law, where she's so skeptical of everyone and everything, but then even she accepts this bribe in this situation that gives her power, and she looks the other way to something that really is a conspiracy. So it's a nuanced movie. There's a lot to dive into, and I think thematically there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and that through line is there if you really want to do the work to like read this in a literary way. It's just also such a deep and thin movie at the same time. It's like I found the commentary and story in Beau is Afraid to be a lot more deep and meaningful for me, maybe because it wasn't trying to tackle so many issues and introduce so many characters. And I kind of feel that in the way that either this movie needed to be an hour longer and really spend time with more of the characters that we introduced, or like 45 minutes shorter and spend less time with the characters that are introduced. If you want to see a movie that I think balances all of this a lot better, Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia comes to mind. I mean, it does feel a little dated these days, which might be sacrilege to some people, but it's such a, what was it, like a 1998, 1999, 2000 movie. But it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's like compelling and interesting, and how it sets up and introduces everybody and goes through the characters. There's just such a different sense of momentum to that movie where I feel caught up and swept away in what's going on, to where Eddington, it started to bog down at times. There's like individual scenes that I really liked, but the connection between them, the combination of them, didn't quite add up. The homeless man character was also great in this embodiment of a kind of thing that's being ignored as he goes through the town spreading. It's like this film often finds ways to visualize things, like externalize something that can't be seen. So COVID isn't something that we see a lot in the movie, despite this being like COVID times. But the homeless man, especially as patient zero in Eddington, really represents this visualization of COVID just kind of moving through the crowd, especially during the protest, which there's the irony there too, right? You have everybody that's so, like, especially the left-wing people in the movie, they're like, wear a mask, get out of the grocery store, you're not wearing a mask. And then they go to this protest and everybody's kind of gathering, masks are going down, masks are going under the nose. There's just such a, like, irony, hypocrisy, and Astor does, like, uppercut both sides with that commentary. So he wasn't pulling punches, that's for sure. It's just, man, not quite the thing for me. But I'm going to think on it. Maybe, you know, a few months from now, I'm going to come back and be like, you know, Eddington has really, like, stayed with me. I think about it a lot. And the same thing happened to me with There Will Be Blood. In the theater, There Will Be Blood finished. I looked over to my friend and I said, I will never watch that movie again. Thank God it's over. Exact quote. Like, I remember it because I felt... I didn't feel cool saying it, but I felt like I was better than the movie. Like, that was a dumb movie. That was an annoying movie. And like, I just rated it badly, right? I'm a cool film critic. I was, that came out in 2007. I was 20 when it came out. Was it 2009? Oh, 2010? I don't know what year it came out, but I thought about it for 6 months, like, until it hit DVD. From the time I saw it in theaters to the time it hit DVD, I thought about it pretty much every day. And then when the movie came out, the day it came out, I went to Best Buy, bought the Blu-ray, went home, watched it again, and realized it was just a tremendous masterpiece. So maybe I'm going to have a similar come to Eddington moments when it comes to this movie, but I don't know. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since that happened. Though I say that, Tar was another one that actually grew on me. I didn't like it that much on the first viewing, but as I was writing about it, I liked it more and more. So I'm going to post this. I'm going to write about Eddington, and we'll see how we feel. But right now, I don't have it ranked all that high for the year. In my 2025 rankings, I haven't seen as many. I just had a newborn, so I've been to the theater as much. But I've seen like 16 movies now in 2025. Like, just 2025 movies. I've watched a lot of older movies. Like, I'm rewatching all the Superman movies. But I have Eddington at number 10 right now in the positives category, which to me, like, that's one above neutral. Neutral to me is like a 5 out of 10. So I have Eddington at a 6 out of 10. Again, like, 5 is neutral, so that's like balance to me. Like, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I'm giving Eddington positive, but I almost gave it neutral. I almost gave it the almost, which would be like a 4. So we'll see. But that's it. Until next time, lights, camera, see ya.